everyone, and welcome back to my channel, Just Another Struggling Writer, the Beleaguered Authors one-stop shop for commiseration and hopefully inspiration. My name is Carrie Scher, and I am just another struggling writer. Today I am revealing my March TBR. If you're new here, basically I construct my TBR in a very specific way, in that I have 6 specific categories that I like to fill for my TBR for the month. And the reason I do that is I have just found that it's easier for me to read when I have some sort of direction, some sort of purpose. The 6 categories are series continuation, non-fantasy, read basically trying to get me out of my comfort zone, which is fantasy, a book that I specifically got from the library, a new release, something that came out in the last 3 months, a free choice, and then a completely random pick out of my TBR mimic friend. This method has really worked out for me in the past, so I'm going to keep it going for yet another month. But I will be changing up the categories just a little bit because I had some trouble constructing the TBR this month, and you will see how shortly. But first up, for my series continuation category, I have chosen Grey Sister by Mark Lawrence, the second in the Book of the Ancestor series. If you followed my channel at all, you know the first book in this series, Red Sister, rearranged my atoms, altered my brain chemistry, added years back onto my life. I loved it that much. So you might be wondering why, if I loved it that much, have I not picked up the sequel? Well, I just like to have time and distance from series entries. If I read them back to back to back, I tend to get bored with the setting, bored with the characters, bored with the conflict. So for me, actually a break between series entries really helps me enjoy it more. And this is even more so when I loved something as much as I loved Red Sister. I don't want anything to ruin my memories of a book, even a sequel, so I took my time getting back to this one. In this sequel, we will continue to follow Nona in her training as a holy sister. In this world, these sisters are not just your regular nuns, they are assassins and poisoners and combatants. We left off in a pretty exciting battle, and I just can't wait to see what Nona does next. For my next category, new release, I have chosen to read Sunbringer by Hannah Kacen, the second book in the Fallen God series, following up on her first entry, God Killer, which I read in January and really, really loved. Normally, I'd give myself a little bit more time between entries, but I couldn't think of anything else to pick up for this particular category, and I know that I want to get to it soon anyway because I really did enjoy the characters and the world. So I went ahead and pre-ordered it, and I will be reading it as soon as it comes out. If you haven't read it, this series follows a woman named Kacen who hunts down gods as part of her profession. Gods in this world are magical creatures summoned into being via prayer and offering. However, a war broke out amongst gods that claimed the lives of mortals, which turned the tide of popular opinion against them. The events of the first book were explosive and riveting, and I can't wait to get back into this world. For my next category, I have actually combined 2 of my traditional categories because honestly, the library didn't have anything great this time around, and the only thing I could find that I was interested in was The Long Way to a Small Angry Planet by Becky. So this is actually going to combine my non-fantasy and my library read this time. I've just recently started getting more into sci-fi, and I'm excited to explore that more. This follows a woman who joins the crew of a ship doing some labor type of work, and then they get contracted to do a job that she didn't quite sign up for, but she ends up staying on because it could mean the payout of a lifetime. I know there's some found family elements, and like I said, I'm just eager to get more into sci-fi. So I needed an extra category to make up for the fact that I was combining 2 this month, and what I came up with is a Kindle Unlimited read. And the reason for that is I realized recently that I don't have a way to account for my Kindle Unlimited books in my Kindle library. I have my owned library accounted for in my Mimic, and I just check out library books on a whim, but I don't have any way to insert my Kindle Unlimited books into my TBR. So I recently decided to add my KU books into my Mimic jar, but also I thought this month's combination of categories offered me a good way to kickstart reading more KU books. Not every book on Kindle Unlimited is indie, but they are the dominating form of publishing there, so that will also help me do more indie published books as well. So for this category this month, I have chosen Rise of the Ranger by Philip C. Quaintrell, and I don't know much about it other than it is a very popular indie book that has a lot of really great ratings. I have struggled with reading, I believe it's kind of a traditional classic epic fantasy story, and I am looking forward to seeing what the indie publishing world has to offer. Next up is my free choice, and for this category I have been going deep into my TBR on my Kindle library, finding the books I purchased the longest ago and have kind of been gathering metaphysical dust in my Kindle library. And so this month, that book I have chosen is Queen of the Conquered by Kacen Callender. I know this is YA and I typically don't read YA, but I like the idea of it. I know it tackles colonialism and a kind of political setting, which I really enjoy, and that it is by a non-binary person of color, which I really do need to read more of. My TBR is astonishingly white, and I'm trying to get away from that. As it is a quick 400 pages, I believe I can knock this one out and explore a different side of my TBR. And lastly, it is my favorite part of my monthly TBR videos. It is time to choose my random read with my Mimic friend here. If you're new here, people have TBR jars. I have a Mimic, and it opens. And on slips of paper, I have written numbers down, and each number corresponds to a book that I have in my owned library. I mentioned before that I've recently added all my KU books. Those, if I draw them, I will return them later after I've read the book, because I always keep my Kindle Unlimited maxed out. So that is how this works. I assigned a random number to every book that I owned last year, and I just keep adding to it as I buy more books. And when I add to it, I also add the corresponding numbers to my Mimic. So this is truly random, and it has produced some really great results up until now. So I'm really excited to see what he produces this time. So without further ado, we're gonna mix them up because I have added like another 30 books. So we're gonna mix it up pretty good here. It's getting really full. I really should probably be reading these guys faster. Okay. So I like to go get the ones on the bottom. Oh, I've got two here. Here we go. Okay. So I have number 48. Let's see what number 48 corresponds to. Okay, so number 48 corresponds to Song of the Siren by Nicholas Kotar, and this is actually another one I was considering reading this month for my free choice because it is another very old one on my TBR, so this way I can knock out two of those. It's not really winter time anymore here in Texas. It was actually 90 degrees today, but in the spirit of it still sort of being a colder time of the year, I'm looking forward to getting into Song of the Siren and seeing what that is all about. And that is everything. 6 books for my TBR. I had a really great reading month in January, a kind of middling month in February since I was dealing with migraines and everything. And I'm really looking forward to getting back to reading as much as I did in January and really attacking this TBR. Out of these 6 books, which ones are your favorites? Please let me know in the comments and let me know which one you think I should read first. If you like my content and want to support the channel, please consider liking and subscribing. It is so appreciated. I am still just a baby channel, and every single follower and every single new view is seen and deeply felt. As always, thank you for watching, and I will see you in the next video. Bye.